So it's July 29th, 2022. I'm in Alberta, Canada. There's still a pandemic going on, but life has kind of gone back to normal now. Well, as normal as it can be, I suppose. Our hospitals are still not doing great, and we have all kinds of strife going on in the country um, and in the world in general. But life is kind of sort of getting back to normal. Been thinking about this subject a lot and not really sure how to share it. Oh, I recently got myself a brand new dog, and she's adorable, except that she is destroying my apartment. You see, I've been working so many hours, I haven't had time to clean up all the mess she's been making. But I recently cut down to one job, and it's only going to work me, 45 hours a week. So, in theory, I'll have time to get things together and, shave. Anyway, I've been thinking about this topic a lot because it comes up quite a bit, and there's quite a few celebrities talking about it, but that's not necessarily the only reason to talk about it. But they talk a lot about racism in Canada, and you got really smart people like Pat King, who were basically the leaders, or the self-proclaimed leaders anyways, of the Freedom Convoy, and we're going to occupy Ottawa and we're going to blockade the Canadian borders and stuff. And then you got our country's leader and other people like him just blatantly calling these guys out for being racist and being fascist, essentially. And in my opinion, Trudeau was right on that. You don't have to love Trudeau. There's all sorts of reasons to think that he's not the greatest. And nobody's perfect. But he was right about that. Pat King and those who think like Pat King, unfortunately, are not looking out for Canada's best interests, in my opinion. And Pat King was very direct about it. He's like, I want to protect the white race. And then he made all sorts of horrible racist comments. And then he talked about the blockade ending in bullets. He talked about that a lot. And he, according to him, was ready to go to war. He wanted to start a civil war in Canada so he could, look after his rights and freedoms. He has since lost his rights and freedoms, because it turns out when you plan an insurrection and try to take over a country using violent tactics, like, as opposed to just like politics, like just get the votes, because the votes didn't work. He didn't win the votes. They lost 2 elections in a row trying to get those votes. So like, well, we'll just go take it by force. So then, he got locked up because it turns out that's illegal. Anyway, there's all sorts of videos of him espousing his views, and they're disgusting, in my opinion. So Trudeau was right to call him out. But then you got people like Bill Maher and Joe Rogan defending the truckers and calling Trudeau a dictator. And then Joe Rogan goes on to say he doesn't understand how the election system in Canada works at all. Well, if you're going to call somebody a dictator, you should understand what a dictatorship is. That means there are no votes. Like, Putin gets voted in every time. Surprise, surprise. He's an actual dictator. He has pretend elections where he wins no matter what. And other dictators, like I forget all their names. But anyways, people who are supporting Putin in that area, they don't have elections either. Sorry, I had to pause for a second. The chaos from the dog was getting me a bit much. But I just think about my own personal experiences working with multiple people of various races. And I've probably had 2 or 3 dozen jobs in my lifetime. Maybe more. I've had a lot of jobs. And I've worked with a wide variety of people. And whether they're Chinese, like from China, or just Asian in general or from the Philippines, and they don't have to be Asian from the Philippines. There's all sorts of different shades of Filipinos, and I've had such great friendships and relationships with so many of these different people. The one guy, his name was Kent. He was from China, and where he lived in Vancouver, you didn't have to know English. He just kind of lived. He's been in Canada for a long time, but the part of Vancouver he was in, like the signs were all in Chinese, and so he didn't know how to read or write in English. He could speak English, but he couldn't read or write it. So after him and I went separate ways and separate jobs, I have no idea what's happened to him since. We can't really talk on Facebook because we don't we don't read the same language. But I had a tremendous friendship with him. He was wonderful. But he wasn't the only recent Canadian. I've developed some very good friendships with many of them. People who were not originally from Canada, or maybe they're second generation Canadians. And I mean, I don't know. I guess like saying I have a black friend, and I do have a couple of black friends, but only a couple. But that's just because demographically I haven't met that many. It's not personal or anything. Which isn't to say that we don't see race. We do. I know I'm white. I've seen it. I know other people are not. And I hang out with who I hang out with, whoever's available. And I meet people through my church or through my workplace, or maybe we like the same genre of video game or movie or something. Like, people are people. That doesn't mean there aren't different cultures. Of course there are. I love when I worked at West Edmonton Mall, I worked with a wide variety of people. And I got to know a wide variety of people. And some of them were Sikhs, and some of them were Muslims, and some of them were who the heck knows, who cares. They were, my life has always been blessed by getting to know different people. I remember I used to ride around the bus in Edmonton quite a bit, going wherever I had to go. And the one time I'm talking to this one guy who was from Pakistan, and I just was just shooting the breeze and just curious. And I said, "Why'd you pick Canada? You could have gone anywhere in the world. Why'd you come here?" And he said, "Well, because where I was at in Pakistan, I was suffering religious persecution." He says, "I'm a Christian, so I like Christ and whatever. But people were showing up at my house with machine guns trying to convince me that being a Christian was a bad idea." He says, "Here, you can worship that box." And he pointed to a newspaper box. He said, "Nobody cares." This was before 9/11 happened, whatever, but still, you know, a lot of people like living in Canada because they enjoy the freedoms that we have here. And I don't know, I think our culture's better for it. As long as we all just get along. And yeah, there's assholes everywhere. But most of the assholes I know are white Canadians who are douchebags. That's sad but true. But I don't personally have white guilt. I don't feel bad about being a white person. It's not a fault or anything. It's just unfortunate that so many white people are blatantly assholes, and they're quite proud of that fact. That's very disappointing because they don't seem to appreciate how wonderful a country we have, and that our diversity is like, that's what makes us great. Anybody can live here and be themselves, more or less. You know, don't hurt anybody else. There are some cultural things from certain cultures that we don't tolerate here. So if somewhere in your culture you think it's a good idea to hurt people or beat them or to physically assault them because they married the wrong person or they have the wrong gender or whatever the thing is, we don't tolerate that here, mostly. But other than that, just go along, get along, and that's one of the things I really love about my country and my culture. My current workplace where I'm at right now, Um, I'd say 50% of the workforce is white and 50% is, I don't know. There's a variety pack there, and it's awesome. Um, I like living in a multicultural society where we all just treat each other with respect. I mean, there's teasing, and we bug each other, but not about race. We bug each other because that guy doesn't know Game of Thrones, or this person doesn't understand, I don't know, whatever. We just make fun of each other because that's what you do when you like somebody. If they didn't tease me, I think they wouldn't like me. So, anyway, that's just been on my mind a lot lately. I tried to have some people, I was having a conversation with people over Twitter, and they were getting upset because I said, well, I don't agree with this definition of this word. It only applies to this particular race. That word should apply to everybody if that's what that word means. I'm not going to go into that word because I'm not really trying to get people's face about it. And I do recognize, by the way, white privilege, which I've been able to exercise in front of police officers. Sometimes I get pulled over at night. Well, not anymore because I stopped doing that job, but I'd be parked on the wrong side of the road, or I'd be bending a rule a little bit, delivering the newspapers, and I would just act annoyed. I would be complacent. I would give them my information. I would say, I'm very sorry, officer. I didn't mean to go around that corner so fast, or whatever the thing was. But mostly I would just act annoyed that they were inconveniencing me to stop me for the night. And almost always, well, always, I never got a ticket one time. I got some warnings, right? But not everybody has that privilege. And I'm aware of that now. But, yeah. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, I'm aware of white privilege. I'm aware I have it. I know it's a thing. I don't know if this is going to be a Darcy's Corner or not. It might be. I'm definitely going to record a second part to this conversation. Because I feel myself getting on a roll now, which could get me in trouble. Anyway, if this is all I upload, then the other part was just got too ranty. So, peace.